My name is Carol Inskipp, and I come from northern England. I've always had a passion for birds and bird watching, as long as I can remember. But what the most important thing for me is, it gives me peace of mind. So if I have worried about something and stressed about something, I can just go out and relax. It helps me to relax. It is in fact what they call nature cure, a nature cure. My parents came from the same small town in the north of England called Spennymoor, where they met, and they were engaged to be married just before the Second World War. I was born in 1948. They lived in a small village called Lee Holme, which is about 5 miles from Spennymoor, and that's where I grew up. And my mother said that my first interest in birds began when I was a small baby, when I used to point and wave at birds. I don't know what it was about them that attracted me, but it hasn't changed over the years. Well, when I was 13 years old, my grandfather, on my mother's side, so that's my mother's father, he gave me a pair of what's called opera glasses. I don't know if you've even heard of these. I probably don't use them today. But when people went to the theatre to look at the people who didn't have good seats would be a long way from the stage. And you could buy these small glasses that were called opera glasses, so you could see the people on the stage. And he gave me a pair of those. I'm surprised I could see any birds through them whatsoever, actually. They were second-hand ones, but I was very proud of them. And then when I was 14, the following year, for Christmas, my parents did give me a pair of second-hand binoculars. But I was looking at birds, identifying birds from, I would say, the age of about 8, just without binoculars. One thing my dad did do for me, though, was that when I was about 7 or 8, he made me a bird table that where I could put food out, food out for the birds. So he did do that for me. So in that sense, he did encourage me at that young age. And he also made me a nest box for blue tits, which is a common garden bird in the UK. And we had it on the wall. And I was thrilled with this. And the first year we had it up, blue tits nested there. And so in my in a little notebook, I made notes about what the birds' behavior, how often they came to the nest, what food they brought, the dates when they started to make the nest, the date when the young flew. And that was in 1958. So that was, I suppose that was the first study, if you like, that I made of birds. But it was my idea, to write it all. And I always enjoyed writing about birds. My husband brought me here in 1977, and it's thanks to him that I ever came to Nepal at all. We first met in 1973, and he was always talking about coming to Nepal and how he'd spent 6 months here in 1970-71. And this fired up a great interest in me in coming here myself. So within a few weeks of our being married in 1977, we set off. It took about 3 weeks to get here, going overland in public buses, actually, which you could do in those days, maybe not so easy now. And we reached the Nepal border at a small place then called Sonali. We spent the night there, and I remember we each took a rickshaw, and so we were carrying a backpack, and we had a rickshaw each, and there was nothing to mark the border. There was just paddy fields, you know, and as far as you could see. And I just remember how really peaceful it was. And that's how we entered Nepal. This was December 77. We had a few days in Pokhara, staying at what was called Lakeside. And it was so beautiful and peaceful. In the morning, I just could hardly believe it. There's an incredible landscape of the Himalayas, which just wasn't expecting it at all. Marvellous it was, and that I'll always remember that view. And then we went bird watching, of course, and that first morning we managed to see spiny babbler, which is Nepal's only endemic bird. And I remember Tim telling me how lucky I was my first morning in Nepal, and we managed to see this bird, which some birders spend a long time, trying to find. And then we went on our first ever trek together, and we walked up to Muktinath. I remember my bag was very small, and Tim carried almost everything. Anyway, he didn't seem to mind, and I just found it the most exhilarating experience to be in the mountains and seeing all these, Himalayan birds, and also the people we met, the Nepali people we met. So it's not just the birds that attract me to Nepal and make me keep on coming back, it's the people. I really warmed to the Nepali people on that first visit, and I just love being with them. So I don't know, it took us about 2.5 weeks, I think, to trek up to Muktinath and back again. And that was the first of many treks that we did together. Our next visit was in 1980, and then again in 81. And so we made many visits together after that. And gradually, over time, we made friends in Nepal. I mean, although I thoroughly enjoyed our early visits, our later visits were enriched by the friendships that we made. Oh, flowers as well. Oh, that's really nice. Thank you. After my first visit to Nepal in 1977, I've been back many times. I've almost lost track, actually, of the number of times. It's certainly more than 25 visits. First in the early years with my husband Tim, and then more recently, in the last 10 years or so, I've travelled with Nepalese friends.
Carol has been coming to Nepal for the last 45 years, and last 35 years I've been in touch with her, mainly through correspondence to begin with. Then later, of course, we met and we have jointly worked in several projects in this country. And she has been working on various subjects in ornithology. She has been visiting various sites. She has been publishing. So she has contributed great deal of knowledge, educating Nepali people, us, about the wealth we have in terms of birds, their importance. So this has been a privilege to work with Carol, and Carol is coming to Nepal on her own expenses. She is not funded by any big projects. She earns money through her hard work, and she spends that money coming to Nepal, meeting her Nepali friends, visiting places, noting, observing and researching birds. And in true sense, Carol is a great friend for Nepali people. She loves Nepal. She has been coming to Nepal regularly, almost yearly, since she started coming to Nepal nearly 45 years back. And I call her, I call Carol as the true ambassador, nature's true ambassador for nature conservation in Nepal. She is a good friend for all the Nepali people and for this country.
After a few visits to Nepal, we soon realised that there was little known about the distribution of birds in the country. So we made a series of bird surveys. So we needed the permission of the Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation to carry out these surveys, and we were privileged to get it. In 1982, Tim had the idea of bringing together all the known information on the distribution of Nepal birds. Nothing had been published on this at that time. This was our first book, and probably our most difficult, both to compile and also to persuade a publisher to take it on for us. Mark Beeman, who was advisor to the publisher Croom Helm at the time, took the risk. We had to provide the book camera ready. This meant we had to prepare all the pages in the book in advance by gluing down the text and distribution maps on large sheets of paper ready to be photographed by the publishers. The book was published in 1985 and stimulated much additional information on the distribution of birds in Nepal, and we were able to produce a second edition in 1991. Researching these books, I learnt much about an Englishman called Brian Houghton Hodgson, who was a British resident and lived in Kathmandu in the early 19th century. Over a period of 25 years, he discovered for science over 600 bird species in Nepal. And in 1988, I wrote a book about him, jointly with Mark Cocker. I also became very interested in all the varied forests in Nepal, from tropical jungles up to subalpine and alpine shrubberies, And in 1989, I wrote a detailed account of Nepal's forest birds, focusing on their conservation. This was published by the International Council for Bird Preservation, which is now BirdLife International. I've visited about 30 to 40 countries. Every year I've been on a major long-haul trip, but most of these have been to Nepal, where I've visited far more than anywhere else. Also India, about 12 times, and also to Australia and New Zealand to visit my family there a number of times as well. Everything is there, isn't it?
Yes.
Provided my health is good enough, I want to come back to Nepal, of course, and I want to go back to the mountains and do some trekking. Not sure how realistic that would be, but that's what I'm going to aim for. And one place I'd love to go back to is Rara National Park. I was so impressed with there. And also there's an important bird area in the Aran Valley called Kanbari Num. It's been designated an important bird area for birds, and there's only ever been one visit, and that was in 2015. So I'm going to try and visit there. In almost every country, perhaps every country in the world, sadly, there are just smaller numbers of birds, especially the big birds like birds of prey and large wading birds like storks and cranes and ibises. And also, so why is that? I think a major reason is the loss of habitat, of course, increasing population pressure. But what's encouraging here in Nepal, which has been a really positive change, has been the growth of community forests. So when I first came in '77, there weren't any community forests. They were developed, I think they started sometime in the 1980s. When I've returned to places I've visited in the 1970s, 20 or 30 years later, I had expected to see less forest, because of deforestation, whereas in fact, there's significantly more forest. That's the impression I had. And when I've checked the photographs that I took in the early days and 20 or 30 years later, you can see there is a lot more forest, and this is because the forests are protected by communities. I know it's not happening everywhere in Nepal, but in a large part of Nepal, and I think it's been a really encouraging change. Bird numbers are decreasing, habitat loss, also hunting, trapping, those are the two major threats. Habitat deterioration, habitats not becoming as good as they were, for instance, forests without undergrowth. And an emerging threat, which we really don't know much about, but is of course affecting all of us even now, is climate change. The birds that are the most threatened are wetland birds. I think there's no question about that. Wetlands face huge number of threats. So pollution, everybody, people throw their rubbish into the river, then there's sewage, domestic sewage, industrial effluent, there's pesticide, there's overfishing, and then there's drainage of wetlands. So I think there's no doubt that wetlands are the most threatened. Nepal's grasslands in the lowlands are of international importance for their grassland birds. And almost all the grasslands in the country now are within protected areas. But even there, the grassland birds, many of them are not doing well. For instance, Bengal florican, which is a large bustard. Tim and I did a survey of that bird, the first survey of that bird in the country in 1982, and the numbers have decreased since then. And even at that time, they were almost all in protected areas. So the grasslands in protected areas are managed for large mammals, and that management for large mammals like tiger and rhino, it doesn't suit many of the grassland bird specialists, unfortunately. I've always thought it's important to encourage young people to look at birds, to enjoy birds, and to cherish them, to look after them. And the reasons for that, I tell them, is that birds can give us so much pleasure. Just watching them, the colours, their songs and calls. Another very good reason is birds are very good indicators of environmental health. Well, birds in Nepal are better recorded now, and that's because of the increasing interest with Nepali people, in birds, in recording birds. And birds have always been important to Nepalis, I think, in their culture and religion. But when Tim and I first came here, there didn't seem to be any Nepalis who we knew who were actually, recording birds. It's been really, really encouraging to see over the years. There's been such a growth in Nepalis who are very interested in birds and their conservation. So the expertise of Nepalis in finding birds, watching birds, recording birds is very, very impressive. So I think because of that, more bird species are being found. Many of the new species that are found are actually vagrants. In other words, they're birds that are migrants and they've lost their way. So they might have been just found here a handful of times. Yeah, I like the birds. This is the habitats with people, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's nice to see. There are several people in my life I would like to thank. First is my late mother, who was always my strongest supporter. She encouraged me to go to university, for instance. I'm also grateful to my husband, Tim, who brought me to Nepal in the first place, for his companionship on our treks together here, and also for his work as co-author. Very warm thanks go to Tika Ramgiri, a long-standing friend and very experienced birder, who's been my bird guide for the past 10 years. Special thanks go to Dr. Hem Saga Barrel, who's been a good friend for over 40 years now, and since 2004 he's co-authored with me on all my Nepal publications. You want to strike over there?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's in the field.
12 o'clock.
12.
Missing us.
Oh dear.
Nepal birds have given me so much joy, and what is inspiring for me is seeing other people enjoying birds in the same way that I do. I hope that in the future people will continue to watch birds, to care and to protect this incredible diversity of birds for the future.